I like Sword Art Online. One of the worst statements any anime fan could ever possibly utter out of their mouth. If they still wanted to be an accepted member of society, that is. Admitting to liking SAO, unironically, is basically the modern day's equivalent of actively praising Hitler. Sword Art Online is completely shit on and bashed so much that it became infamous for being an anime only the worst of the worst anime fans like. The anime only idiots and incels enjoy because they use Kirito as some kind of self-insert character for their own self-gratification. Sword Art Online is an anime only trash-loving degenerates who have no life could actually enjoy. Wait. Fuck. Yes, for those of you who are not already familiar with me, I, as your friendly neighborhood otaku, am all of the above and more. I am a degenerate who loves trashy anime, and I make shitty videos about waifus and big fat anime titties, so the cultured minority out there can hear the best trash praised, while the comments will only yell at me instead of you. You can think of me as a crappy rip-off Gigguk wannabe who enjoys the more cultured elements of anime to an alarming degree. With that being said, I have a little bit of a confession to make. See, I like Sword Art Online. And I also only watch it dubbed. And then there's the fact that I kinda like the Alfheim Online arc due to Kirito and Sugaha's relationship. Plus, my love for the series has only grown with time and experience, not dwindled, like what happens to most people who originally like SAO. So, yeah. Things aren't looking that great for me. With that being said, allow me to take you on a journey through the mind of a full-fledged degenerate who has the unique ability to like what everybody else seems to hate. But mostly, if I'm being honest, having this ability just results in an even unhealthier hentai addiction. With that being said, let me quickly clear some things up. Sword Art Online is an insanely flawed anime, riddled with more plot holes than Swiss cheese. In fact, it is filled with so many plot holes, not even a hentai protagonist with their impressive sun is shining in the sky, there ain't a cloud load could ever even conceive filling them all. People have said that it is insanely distorted, confusing, jumbled up mess of plot armor, contradicting story elements and plot points, and wait, I don't need to tell you anymore. You have already heard it all, at least a couple of times. And while I don't necessarily disagree with those criticisms per se, I honestly could care less. Don't get me wrong, plot elements and overall stories of anime are very important. No anime should be immune to criticism. But to me, the very thing that makes Sword Art Online so great in the first place are those very reasons. Is it the reason why we all love anime to begin with? The completely bizarre, weird, and completely unrealistic stories they tell? We all love anime for those reasons, but in our own ways. People who think shonen is one of the best genres, like Sea-Dog VA, love the completely bizarre and dynamic fight scenes, and anything from shows like Naruto all the way to something completely bonkers like JoJo. There are also people who love complex and deep story elements, or just general world building and other similar elements, like Mother's Basement or Skimbully Reviews. There are reviewers who love to critique anime and get into the nitty-gritty of why they think certain things are good or bad. And then there are even the degenerate, I mean cultured individuals like me, who can still like some of the most cliche garbage even after watching it for what seems like the 50th time.
I can do this all day.
We all love anime's bizarre ideas and plots in our own way. And that is the reason why I am not trying to convince you that SAO is a good anime, or even change any of your opinions about it. Instead, I am just trying to shine a light on a completely different and less talked about perspective of SAO. But now that I think about it, it might just be my completely weird and distorted perspective. Anyway, that is the most rational reason I can possibly muster for why I like bad anime. I'm not like the before mentioned people who can critique and make valid points about anime being good or bad. I'm just another otaku after all, who wishes I lived in another world where that waifus were real. So, with all that serious stuff out of the way, let me let loose and explain all of the degenerate and completely bizarre reasons why I love SAO. Sword Art Online was the very first anime I ever watched, and it immediately became my favorite, and it stayed that way for a long time. Recently, though, I started questioning if it was still as great as I remembered it to be. So I decided to finish the series and watch War of the Underworld, which I was actually pretty excited to watch, especially since I loved Alicization for its plot. What? Give me that look. War of the Underworld was basically just a 23-episode school PowerPoint presentation on why Alice is best girl, but with fancy transitions and pretty pictures. So that's how you know it must be good. In the end, while I did have a much different perspective on the series and had to get used to watching dubs again, I still absolutely loved every second of it. On a school night, what was just supposed to be, just one more episode, then I'll go to sleep, turned into a 5-hour-long binge that ended up giving me a whopping 4 hours of sleep before school the next day. Well, it seems like a confusing back-and-forth mess of, haha, I just achieved powers that were never possible till now. Oh shit. Well, now I just achieved powers that were never possible till now. And a scene straight out of what seems like to be a tentacle hentai? Something about it was just so charming despite all of this. And that is how SAO has always been throughout the entire franchise for me. Whether it be its beautiful visuals and animation, or even some of its more surprisingly serious and actually pretty emotional scenes. Or even just the kind of bizarre plot twists and funny interactions between the characters. There were some genuine moments where I almost teared up, which is pretty impressive, especially since how I have seen shows such as Angel Beats, Rascal Does Not Dream of Bunny Girl Senpai, and Rascal Does Not Dream of a Dreaming Girl, Your Lie in April, Suka Suka, and Plastic Memories, and the list goes on and on and on. But I have yet to ever cry from any of these, or the likes of any other anime for that matter. One second, I am completely simping over Administrator, where she would just dominate and step all over me. While the next second, I'm fighting back the tears from witnessing Yu-Gi-Oh's death. I am having degenerate thoughts about one thing to actively falling in love with one of the characters, or contemplating my own life and everyone's mortality in the very next. There are definitely wacky parts and times where I question the reasoning behind certain things or plot points, but there are actually a lot of genuinely good moments. But hey, if you can enjoy SAO like a degenerate like me, that's fine. But for those degenerates out there, SAO asks some serious philosophical questions. No, not if AI deserve human rights, or subjecting things with human souls to awful and dangerous environments for our own gain is right. It asks the real hard-hitting questions, such as, would you fuck a robot if it was a hot tsundere waifu? And while my personal answer to that question sends shivers down my parents' spines, this is just one of many similar questions SAO makes you ask. Would you willingly go into SAO knowing you'd be trapped in a death game? Is there any actual reason why you should live in the real world if you can live in a virtual one that in many ways is the exact same to the real world? If you fuck a guy in the virtual world who has a female avatar, would that make you gay? What did I do so wrong in my life that I got to the point where I fantasize about being hit by a truck? It's so on. I think you get the gist. Sword Art Online may not be the greatest anime in the world, but by no means do I think it deserves all of the hate it gets. And at the bare minimum, people who like SAO shouldn't be straight out bullied for it. Teased? Yeah. Picked on? As long as it doesn't go too far. Labeled as a degenerate? Definitely. In conclusion, I really need to get a life.